Good morning, friends, and welcome to the Daily Word. I'm going to be reading from Genesis chapter 16, verse 13. So she called the name of the Lord who spoke to her, "You are a God of seeing," for she said, "Truly here I have seen him who looks after me." See, this was spoken by Hagar, the servant girl, the servant of Abraham and Sarah. See, God had promised Abraham and Sarah that he would give them a son. But it wasn't happening in their timing. Sarah wasn't getting pregnant, and so she said, "Here, Abraham, take my servant girl Hagar. Maybe you can get an heir out of her." And Hagar became pregnant and then started being prideful and kind of lording it over Sarah, and Sarah was jealous. And so she started mistreating Hagar, and then Hagar runs away. See, we find ourselves in the mess in chapter 16 because God had promised something, and the people in the scenario were trying to make it happen in their own strength, and there was pride and there was jealousy, and yet God still showed up. And first to the servant girl in distress in the wilderness, he showed up and he said, "Hey, I'm going to give you a son, and I'm going to make a nation out of him. Go back and submit yourself." And then later in the book of Genesis, we see that God fulfills his promise to Abraham and Sarah just like he said that he would. He gives them a son, regardless of them trying to do it in their own strength, in their impatience, regardless of pride, regardless of jealousy. God still stayed true to his promise and who he is, and that is faithful. And he saw Hagar right where she was, and so she gave him the name, the God who sees and the God who takes care. And I think sometimes we're tempted to believe that God sees and he takes care when we're getting it right and when our attitudes are good and right. But the reality is that God sees us in our victory and cares for us there, but he sees us in our mess and cares for us in our mess. He works out the details of our lives because he loves us and he's faithful, not because of what we do or don't do. He showed up in the middle of the mess to work out all of the things that they had done to mess it up. He was being God and he was being faithful, and that's the reality of our lives. So be encouraged this week. Regardless of the circumstances of your life, whether you've been obedient or not obedient, whether you've had a good attitude or a bad attitude, God is faithful to you. He sees you and he cares for you right where you are.